Hello, everyone. Today we are thrilled to welcome Chris Debondt to the podcast. Chris is the Vice President of HR for the ZF Aftermarket Division and Region India, bringing over 30 plus years of rich experience in the HR space. Before joining ZF, he made a significant impact as the global HR leader for the engineering group at WABCO and has also contributed his expertise at Faurecia. Chris' deep insight into the HR leadership and talent management make him a true industry veteran, and we are excited to dive into this journey and learn from his wealth of knowledge. So, welcome, Chris. Nice seeing you again. So,
Thank Hi, Himanshu. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to the session today.
thanks, Chris. So, Chris, today I wanted to get your perspective, some of the shift you see in the HR business partner or the talent consulting space at the global level, and how we as an HR business partner or talent consultant can drive some of these critical change management journeys. So, that's been the thought process. So, my first question to you, how has the role of HR VP evolved in last few years, and what mindset or skills shifts are critical for HR VPs to stay relevant and future ready? Over to you.
Whew, you're not making this easy for me. Yeah, with you, it's a good question, good question, but it's not so difficult. Like many things are not so difficult. You just need to cut it into smaller pieces, right? So I think the first and foremost real element that I've seen already since a longer time is the shift from the administrative role, the operational role, to the more strategic role. Yeah, we're just no longer just handling recruitment and compliance. Yeah, we are actually, and in good companies which actually understand this role and the add value that HR can bring. You have a seat at the table of strategy. You have a seat at the table of business, long term, medium term, and short term strategies. So we are now expected as HR business partner, at least from my journey, Faurecia, WABCO, ZF, it has been that journey that we're more and more aligned, or that we're more and more expected to align our HR strategy with our business goals, with the business strategies. So how do we contribute to the growth? How do we contribute to the challenges that we see in the business? How can we influence decision making? Because I think very often when we have a seat at the table, is also to give advice and you say, guys, if we go this way, or ladies and gents, if we go this way, or if we decide to take this step, these are the risks and these are the value add topics. These are the interesting parts for the people, for our employees, for also how we're going to attract people. Let's say you want to expand in an exotic country which you've never been. You need to create an HR strategy around that. If you need to carve out business, you need to create an HR strategy or how we're going to split the teams so that you can carve out a piece of the business, which is happening, which is very, very often the case, happening in many, many industries at the moment, where things are carved in or carved out. Then there's the organic growth. How do we accompany all that? And so there's really this important step that's being taken with a lot of companies. I think the companies that are successful very often have this understanding that HR can bring that value add. I like to call it, I like to very, very well summarized in that I don't want to serve the table as an HR function. I definitely want to have a seat at that table, So I will serve that table, of course, because HR is a support function, but it's much more than that. It's a strategic partnership. And that's when metaphorically, you have a seat at the table. You don't serve the table only. And we came from that very, very traditional, we're serving the table, to now having a seat at that table, so that we can actually be an added value. What we very much saw, this was the first, the most important one. The second one is what we saw with the COVID, which makes it really, really important, is that we have a very important role in creating a positive workplace culture. And I think that through this COVID exercise, we were, it was right in our face how we're going to continue business. We're not allowed out of our houses. And that's where we shifted. A lot of companies shifted to this hybrid model where you can work at home partly, and then work from the office. And that has become, in my opinion as well, an attraction element for candidates, especially in India, where people, some people want to stay in Bangalore, but the central team is sitting in Chennai, or it could be, in Pune or any other, of these technology hubs. And by opening the door to say, listen, you don't need to move. You can actually leave you can work from home. And in many cases, it does work. It doesn't always work in every case, because some jobs you just need to be, obviously you need to be at site. But I think, creating a positive workplace culture, personalized development opportunities, wellness initiatives, and that, very, very big topic as well in India and our India culture. And what is extremely important is this continuous invitation to give feedback, to ask for feedback. Because I think feedback is always a privilege. And every time we don't get feedback, no matter how critical, you're losing an opportunity. Then I think especially in my life, one of the difficulties that I'm facing in a company that I'm in today, for example, at ZF, is that we are a collection of different companies that were merged at some point, and they all bring their own systems and own data driven systems, especially in HR. Yeah, and merging them and creating one point of reference, one point of truth in terms of HR data, is extremely important. And that is already a big journey. But now, especially now and in the next 5 years, I think we need to really embrace the artificial intelligence chapter, where you do predictive analysis, predictive modeling, which we've already, even at WABCO we used to, and I know we do it still already in Chennai, is basically, that I can use that data to predict, if I hire someone in Chennai and who's coming from Bangalore, who's coming from Jamshedpur, who's coming from a very remote area in India, we could now, with all of the historic data that we had, we were creating models of attrition that said the chance that this person at some point in his or her life, because of their life cycles, getting married, having children, predictive AI could give us the information that the chance that this person or this group of people that are coming from this area in India, or with this background, with this competencies, you could throw a different data into the system, could tell us that the chance is higher in such a group than if you're coming from, the Tamil Nadu province and area, right? Even if it's more south than where we are in Chennai. And you could actually use the system to give you predictive or future understanding of that you can hire these people, of course, but you need to either find a solution moving down the line in the next 3 years, that you have to assume that half of the people that you hire from this kind of group will leave the company again, just from a family, just from a social, just from a cultural point of view. Also, the language topic is obviously very often the local language, especially in a very big region or country like India, plays a role. So you can throw all this data into the system, and it was utterly fascinating for me, because I've never seen that, and we saw that in WABCO 5 before COVID. We already saw those kind of models that were created, so we were pretty advanced. I think we need to start embracing ourselves with that, and I think we need to really start using these systems to help us make better decisions, to help us, to guide us in talent strategies, and anticipate as well future needs. Yeah, so. Workforce analytics is a very, very difficult thing to do. It's not easy. You need the systems. You need, the saying that you put bad data into a system, you get bad data out, right? And workforce analytics is one where what are we used to today? We're used to having systems that tell us the past and the day today, and maybe the data in the next 2 months, maybe. On HR, on who's coming, who's leaving, who's developing, etc. What these KPIs, how many, diversity and all that, how many diverse candidates have we hired, etc. But it is much more difficult to create data which will give you the visibility in the next 6 months, 9 months, and it is there. Yeah, it is all there. We just need to be able to use it well. And I think we need to train ourselves, especially in HR, because I think the HR people of the future will have a clear link to AI and to systems that help you with the workforce analytics, predictive modeling, et cetera, et cetera. I think that makes, and that's my fourth point as well, which is technology integration, right? So the HR tech platforms, the AI tools, these need to be developed. And I think the more we know about them and the more we are able to use them, we'll be better HR people, 100%. And then I think last but not least, and I think my last topic, if I may, is this diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the cultural leadership. In many geopolitical situations today, unfortunately our politicians are going in my opinion, in a completely wrong direction, in being intolerant, in share, and it's not only one country; it's growing, and I think we as a company need to really emphasize, and we, our values, HR are champions of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we need to help shape these inclusive cultures and equitable policies that also share our levels of where we stand with our culture and what we stand for, what we will not tolerate. And that hasn't changed for our company, for example, independent of what's happening at the moment in the geopolitical environment. That has not changed. I think we still stand for these elements, and I think they're incredibly important for us, because I know for a fact that diverse teams are much more interesting to work for, to work with, and the results are always going to be better. If you work, let me give you an example. If you work only with Indian colleagues, and have a big problem in just an example. It's the same for me. If I only work with European or Belgian guys, I'm living in Belgium, so the outcome of tackling problems, challenges, is going to be different than if I add a German, a French, an Indian, a Japanese, a Chinese, and then look at this problem and look at this challenge with a more diverse team. The process will be much more enriching. I think the innovation will be higher, and I think the results will be better, because you have differently thinking people with different cultural backgrounds looking at a problem with their eyes, and can very often, and should very often, also contribute to a challenge or a problem that we need to solve in a very different way. Doesn't mean that the one that you're looking at from a monocultural is bad. I'm just saying that you will have a lot more enriching process and hope better outcome in a multicultural environment. And I've seen it happen thanks to my experience with WABCO, ZF, and Faurecia before WABCO. We've always been working in an extremely rich multicultural environment, and that's always been, at least for me, a much more fun environment as well, and challenging, because you also need to bring people together, and trying to solve problems that then apply to everybody. So that is, I think, the first part of your question, right?
Yeah,
Himanshu?
thanks, Chris. Thanks for that. And I mean, if I have to take a quick takeaway, I think adopting a consulting mindset, one which is proactive, problem solving, and the business focus. And we also need to look at in terms of how the technology get merged with our day-to-day life activities,
Mhm.
and how the diversity and inclusion will play a big role. So technology and diversity and inclusion are the two aspects which is going to change the world now. And to be honest, my next question was on artificial intelligence. So how do you see AI analytics and digital tools shaping the role of HRBP? You have already covered few part on in your earlier conversation, but something else which you feel can be added in this piece.